Hello friends, I won't take much of your time. I just ask you to subscribe to the channel and like this video. Thank you.
I knew the text was coming. That half-hearted, last-minute, 12 words or less afterthought my dad would shoot off just to say he technically remembered. And sure enough, there it was, sitting in my notifications like a piece of junk mail I didn't ask for but couldn't quite ignore. Happy B-Day, kiddo. Hope it's a good one. No punctuation, no emoji, no call, not even my name. Just kiddo, like he was addressing a neighbor's dog. I stared at it for a second, let it sit there, glowing on my screen while I tried to convince myself it didn't still sting. It had been 4 years of this. 4 years of watching my birthday slip by like a pothole he'd rather swerve around than acknowledge. He used to show up, once. I remember a card once. I think I was 25, before Derek dropped out of grad school and moved back in with Mom, before the family group chat turned into his personal fan club, before my dad decided that being a father was optional if your daughter didn't text first. I didn't reply. I never replied anymore. Not out of bitterness, at least not only that. It just didn't feel worth it. What was I gonna say? Thanks, Dad? Thanks for remembering barely? Thanks for putting in the exact amount of effort it takes to hold your thumb on a screen for 3 seconds and hit send? No, screw that. I went about my day, tried to. I had a dinner reservation that night with Carla, my best friend since high school, and the only person who remembered my birthday without Facebook reminders. She took me to this cozy little Italian place on the east side, where they bring you real bread and actual butter without charging extra. It should have felt good. It did for about 45 minutes. Then she pulled out her phone to show me something funny but also not funny. I knew by the look on her face it was going to be bad. It was an Instagram story, Derek's story, posted 4 hours ago. It was a boomerang video, him unboxing a brand new MacBook Pro, complete with a bow on top like some overgrown man-child influencer. Caption: "When Dad comes through, best surprise ever." I stopped chewing. My fork froze halfway to my mouth, and for a second, all I could do was stare. I knew that laptop. I knew the specs, the color, the price, because it was the same damn laptop I'd been saving for over the past 14 months, scraping a little from every paycheck, skipping new shoes and delaying car repairs just so I could finally replace the wheezing brick I used at work. Carla blinked at me. "You okay?" I think I laughed. Not a real laugh, just that broken little bark of disbelief people make when they realize they were stupid for having expectations in the first place. I asked her to replay it, and she did. I watched it again. Saw Derek's smug little grin, the way he panned the camera around like he'd just won the damn lottery. I could practically hear the applause he imagined pouring in from his followers. He didn't work. Not really. Not unless you count uploading reaction videos once a month from our mom's basement. And still, he was the one Dad thought to surprise. Not with a text, not with a coffee, with a $2,000 laptop. I didn't eat much after that. Didn't say much either. Carla didn't push. She knew the look I get when the walls go up. We hugged goodbye in the parking lot and I told her thank you. I meant it. She always shows up, which, in my family, made her something of a unicorn. That night, I sat in my apartment with the lights off, the screen of my old laptop flickering like it knew its death was imminent. I stared at it, this relic of my hustle, this symbol of all the shit I'd convinced myself was temporary. I thought about the savings account I had nicknamed Laptop Fund. Thought about the birthdays I pretended weren't a big deal. Thought about how I never asked for anything, never expected much, and still managed to get less. And something in me broke. It wasn't loud or dramatic. It was quiet, like the way a bone cracks under pressure before it shatters. I got up, logged into my bank app, and transferred every cent from that account into a new one with a different bank. No trace, no link to the shared logins my mom still had access to, just in case of emergencies. Then I opened my contacts, scrolled to Dad, hovered over it. My thumb trembled for a second, not because I doubted what I was doing, but because I'd spent my whole life trained to believe that cutting your family off was a crime punishable by guilt and shame. But I wasn't cutting them off, not yet. I was just turning down the volume, for my own sanity. I hit block. Then I did the same to Derek. And after 2 glasses of wine and 5 minutes of silence, I did the same to Mom. Not because I hated her, but because silence is a kind of protection too. They didn't notice right away. Of course they didn't. People like that only notice your presence when it benefits them, and your absence when it inconveniences them. But I knew what was coming: the panic texts, the voicemails, the performative concern, and for once, I didn't care. For once, I was the one who got to decide what came next. They didn't notice the first day, which honestly didn't surprise me. I had been conditioned over decades to be invisible in that house, or more accurately, to be seen only when convenient. The kind of daughter who didn't raise her voice, didn't demand explanations, didn't make waves even when her heart was being quietly ignored by the people who were supposed to care the most. So, of course, one day of silence wouldn't cause much alarm. One day without responding to my dad's lazy birthday text, or my mom's check-in emoji, wouldn't register as anything unusual in the ongoing background noise of our fractured family routine. The second day came and went the same way. I went to work, made it through meetings, stared at spreadsheets like they were the only place in the world where order actually existed, and tried to pretend I wasn't simmering inside. But on the third day, something shifted. I woke up to 5 missed calls from my mother and 2 voicemails from my father, both left after 9 o'clock at night, both saying versions of the same thing. My mom's voice was sugary and thin, like she was trying not to sound too worried, but couldn't hide the edge creeping in. "Rachel, honey, just checking in. Haven't heard from you. Everything okay? Maybe your phone's off? Call me when you get this." That was followed a few hours later by my dad's less gentle, more impatient tone, a man not used to being ignored and not pleased with the reversal of power. "Hey, don't know what's going on with you, but this isn't funny. If you've got something to say it. You're not a kid anymore." He always did that, turned concern into accusation, like silence was a threat, like my withdrawal was an attack on him personally. It wasn't. At least it hadn't started that way. I deleted both messages without listening to them a second time. Not because they didn't affect me, but because they did. And I was tired of explaining myself to people who never really listened when I did. It's strange how quickly absence creates presence. When you're quiet long enough, people start to hear all the things you never said. By day 4, I was the center of the family's attention, finally, in the most ironic way possible. Texts started rolling in from Derek too, though his tone was more confused than concerned. "Hey sis, did I do something? I saw you blocked me. Was that an accident?" Right. Because a 34-year-old woman just accidentally blocks her whole family after her birthday. "Sure, Derek, keep telling yourself that." I didn't reply, of course. I was past the point of giving him the emotional breadcrumbs he craved when things stopped revolving around him. But that message did something inside me, cracked open a door I had tried to close. I sat at my dining table with my laptop open, and an idea began to form. Not the impulsive kind born of anger or hurt, but the slow, deliberate kind that comes from years of watching and remembering and waiting. Revenge wasn't something I usually entertained. I didn't see the point, didn't believe it brought satisfaction. But this wasn't about vengeance. This was about equilibrium, balance, a long overdue reordering of the scales. So I started collecting. It began with photos, old ones, the kind stuffed into kitchen drawers at my mom's house that no one had looked at in years. I already had digital copies of a lot of them, saved out of sentiment. But now I began to catalog them differently. Ones with me cropped out, ones where Derek was front and center, and I was a blurry background figure. Ones that told the story of who mattered and who didn't. Then came the text messages. Screenshots from the last few years, a pattern of birthdays missed, holidays half acknowledged, the tone-deaf jokes my father always made about raising a strong independent woman while never offering me real support of any kind. I took them all, screenshotted, labeled, organized into folders. It wasn't for public sharing, not yet, maybe not ever. It was just for me, to see the whole thing laid bare, like puzzle pieces I finally had the courage to fit together. Carla came over that night, brought takeout and a bottle of wine, and when I told her what I was planning, she didn't even blink. "About damn time," she said, handing me the wine opener. "You've been quiet for too long. People think silence is weakness, but they forget it's also strategy." That's when the envelope idea hit me. It was something simple, symbolic. Just one photo, Derek holding the laptop, smiling like the golden boy he's always been, the receipt peeking out from the box clear as day. I printed it, put it in a plain envelope, no note, no return address, and dropped it in the mailbox addressed to him. It would arrive in 2 days, and he would know exactly who sent it, but he wouldn't know what it meant. That was the beauty of it. You don't need to burn down the house. Sometimes, all it takes is lighting a candle and placing it in the right room. Let them wonder why the light's flickering. Let them ask themselves if they should feel guilty. The next morning, I went for a walk. It was gray and quiet, and the air had that weightless stillness of a morning before a storm. I didn't listen to music. I didn't take my phone. I just walked and listened to my own footsteps and the sound of leaves scraping along the sidewalk. I realized for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel invisible. Not because someone saw me, but because I had finally decided to see myself. And I wasn't done yet. Not by a long shot. It arrived on a Thursday just before noon, when the mail carrier usually slid everything through the wide slot in the front door of my mother's house. I didn't have to be there to know the moment Derek picked it up. I imagined it all with crisp clarity, the thud of envelopes hitting the floor, his lazy walk from the kitchen in socks, the half yawn as he bent to scoop the pile without checking what was in it. Then the pause, the sudden change in posture when he saw his name on the front, written in careful, slanted black ink. No return address, no decoration, just one flat, padded envelope that felt heavier than it should have. I could picture his fingers hesitating as he peeled it open, expecting, what, a bill? Maybe junk mail, maybe something from a brand he forgot to unsubscribe from. And then there it was, a single printed photo of himself, grinning like a fool, holding the brand new laptop he didn't pay for, didn't earn, and absolutely did not deserve. I imagined the color draining from his face, his mouth opening slightly but no words coming out. He would know immediately. He wouldn't even need to flip the photo over to check for writing. He'd know I had sent it. And more importantly, he'd know I had nothing more to say. The first text came just after 1 in the afternoon. I saw the preview light up on my home screen from the dummy phone I'd set up just to monitor their reactions. I didn't trust myself to stay disconnected if I kept my main number open, so I rerouted the chaos to a number only Carla and I knew existed. It was easier to control, easier to read from a distance, like watching a fire burn in someone else's fireplace. The text was short, but the tone was unmistakable. "Okay, so now you're doing what exactly? Stalking me? Trying to guilt-trip me with photos? What the hell is your problem?" It was always fascinating how quickly people shifted from confusion to defense when they started feeling exposed. No apology, no reflection, just instant recoil. Like a kid caught stealing who gets mad you noticed. I didn't reply, obviously. I didn't even save his number under a name. Just let it exist as a thread from a stranger. By that evening, the messages had doubled. He switched from confused to frantic to furious in the span of 10 hours. The last one made me laugh out loud, bitter and amused all at once. "You're seriously being crazy. You're mad about the laptop. Dad gave it to me. I didn't ask for it. What, you want me to send it to you now? Jesus." That was always his thing, pretend innocence, pretend he didn't benefit from the exact system he knew was rigged in his favor. Derek had always been the center of the show, the main act, the one our parents poured time and money into, even when he failed again and again. He was the high school football star who couldn't keep his grades up, the college dropout who blamed his professors, the job hopper who somehow always had gas money and new gadgets. And through it all, I was the one who kept my head down, I had spent the past week setting it up. An elaborate little trap, dressed up as a tech startup, looking for fresh talent. I created a fake LinkedIn profile, under the name Dana Keller, complete with a professional headshot, connections, even a work history filled with impressive-sounding but entirely fabricated credentials. Carla helped write the job description. She had a flair for corporate nonsense and crafted it perfectly to match Derek's inflated ego. Seeking a creative, self-motivated content strategist with experience in media engagement and cross-platform analytics. I knew he wouldn't understand half of it, but he'd love how important it sounded. I posted it to a fake job board that looked just legitimate enough to pass a casual glance. Then I messaged him directly from the fake account, saying his recent video had caught our team's attention and invited him to apply. I attached a Google form with initial application questions and asked for a resume, samples of work, and a short video introducing himself. He responded in under an hour. I watched him fumble through his attempt at professionalism, like a man trying on clothes 2 sizes too big. His resume was a joke, a bloated sheet of lies and buzzwords, obviously stitched together from free templates and Reddit threads. His sample work was a link to a YouTube video titled, "Why Cancel Culture is Dumb," which was essentially him yelling at a camera for 6 minutes in a hoodie. And then came the video. I played it 3 times, not because I needed to analyze it, but because it was almost performance art. Derek sitting in front of his new laptop, talking about how he was passionate about narrative integrity in digital spaces, and how he brought a unique, disruptive energy to everything I do. He used the word disruptive 3 times. I could barely keep a straight face. That night, I crafted the response. "Thank you for your submission, Derek. We've reviewed your application and would like to move you to the next stage. A member of our team will be in touch with further instructions." I signed it, of course, Dana Keller, Head of Talent Engagement. He responded with 3 exclamation points and a looking forward to it. And I couldn't help thinking how poetic it all was. For once, he was chasing something that wasn't real. For once, he was investing in an outcome that would never come to pass. Just like I had done for years with our father. Just like I had waited for something that never arrived, never materialized, no matter how much I hoped or tried to earn it. The difference was, I knew it now, and he didn't, yet. The voicemail came in just after midnight on a Sunday, which already told me more than I needed to know. My father was not the kind of man to stay up past 10, not unless he was drinking or angry, usually both. I didn't listen to the message at first. I let it sit there in the inbox of my burner phone, a digital landmine I wasn't quite ready to step on. I watched the notification light blink in the dark of my apartment, the silence humming around me like it was waiting for something to crack. When I finally played it the next morning, I had to listen twice because I couldn't believe how far he'd gone. "Rachel, I don't know what you think you're doing or who the hell you think you are, but you're messing things up that you don't understand. You've always had a flair for drama, and I've tried to be patient, but this? Sending weird packages? Playing games with your brother? If this is how you deal with being disappointed, maybe you were never as grown up as you pretended. I'm done walking on eggshells. Call me back." There it was, the voice of a man who saw every feeling that wasn't his own as a burden. He wasn't calling to understand or to apologize or even to fix things. He was calling to put me back in my place, to remind me that he was still the authority figure, even if all he ruled was a crumbling kingdom built on guilt and selective affection. He didn't ask if I was okay. He didn't wonder why I was silent. He didn't pause for a second to reflect on the fact that maybe, just maybe, I had a reason for stepping away. I saved the voicemail, not because I needed it for any plan, but because I knew I would want to hear it later when I started doubting myself. That was the problem with emotional neglect. It didn't come with bruises, so you always questioned whether it was real. But there was nothing ambiguous about his words. There was no misunderstanding to unpack. He had made it clear. My silence was offensive to him, my pain was an inconvenience, and his patience had been stretched simply by my lack of contact. By Tuesday, things escalated. He came to my apartment. I wasn't there when he knocked, thank God. I had taken the day off work and gone to a library 2 neighborhoods over, trying to clear my head and stay ahead of whatever nonsense might unfold next. But when I came back and saw the scuff marks on my front door and a crumpled note wedged into the frame, I knew he'd stood there long enough to get angry about the fact that I wouldn't let him in. The note was brief, scrawled in the same blocky handwriting I remembered from every school field trip form he barely filled out. "Call me, you're acting like a stranger." That line, like a stranger, hit me harder than I expected. Because the truth was, I didn't feel like a stranger. I felt like myself, possibly for the first time in years. I wasn't reacting to him anymore. I wasn't performing grief or compliance or patience to earn scraps of his attention. I was making choices. And the moment I stopped chasing him, he panicked. Because if I wasn't the compliant daughter, if I wasn't the quiet one, then who the hell was I? Carla came over that night. I told her what happened, and she sat across from me with a look that could have melted metal. "He came to your door unannounced? That's crossing a line, Rach. That's not just rude, that's controlling." I knew she was right, but I was still hesitating, trapped somewhere between my conditioned guilt and the clarity I was finally clawing my way into. "What if he thinks I've lost it?" I asked. She didn't even blink. "He should think that. Let him sweat. Let them all sweat." And that was the thing. I didn't want them to think I was crazy, but I did want them to feel unsure, to feel the discomfort of no longer having control over the narrative, to feel the creeping fear of not knowing what I was capable of when I stopped playing their game. So I made a choice. I took the voicemail. I took a few others I had saved from over the years, some from birthdays, some from those guilt-laced check-ins that only came when I stopped responding. I compiled them into a short audio clip, nothing dramatic, just enough to reveal the pattern. Then I posted it anonymously to a private Facebook group I had joined months earlier called Daughters of Narcissistic Parents. It wasn't something I participated in much, but I had read countless stories that sounded like my own. I knew if anyone would understand the subtext beneath my father's voice, it would be them. The post wasn't accusatory. I simply wrote, "Ever wonder what it sounds like when love is a transaction? This is what my father left me after I ignored his birthday text for the 4th year in a row. Just looking to see if anyone else hears what I hear." The responses came fast. Within an hour, there were over 200 comments. People sharing their own stories, people validating what I felt, people naming what I had never dared to label: emotional manipulation, conditional affection, covert narcissism, cycles of guilt. I read each comment slowly, letting them sink in, one by one. I wasn't imagining it. I wasn't being cruel or unreasonable. I was finally recognizing that love, when withheld systematically, becomes a weapon. The post didn't go viral, not in any mainstream sense, but it reached enough people, enough eyes, and soon it found its way back to people in my hometown. I never mentioned names. I never pointed fingers, but small towns don't need full names to put puzzle pieces together. 2 days later, my mother called from a number I didn't recognize. I let it go to voicemail. Her voice was small, tired. "Rachel, we saw what you posted. Your dad's upset. He thinks people are talking. Maybe they are. Honey, please don't make this uglier than it has to be." It was laughable, really, as if I had made it ugly. As if I had invented the years of silence, the years of imbalance. As if it wasn't already ugly long before I ever said a word. I sat at my desk, staring at the burner phone, letting her message play one more time. Then I closed the app and opened a new tab. Father's Day was coming up, and I had one final gift to deliver. The Sunday morning air was thick with the kind of humidity that clings to your skin before you've even had a chance to start the day. I stood at the counter in my tiny kitchen, staring at the open box in front of me. The cardboard was rough on the edges, fraying slightly from where I had peeled the old tape off, and inside sat the remains of what once was my laptop. My faithful, coughing, overheating 4-year-old machine that I had tried so desperately to replace, that I had saved for, budgeted around, and dreamed of upgrading. It was the symbol of everything I had tried to build with my own effort: quiet, steady progress without anyone's help, now stripped of usefulness and full of metaphor. The casing was cracked, the screen was loose, the battery no longer held a charge. I could have recycled it, of course, could have dropped it off at a donation center, but instead I found myself carefully laying it into the tissue-lined bottom of the gift box, the same way someone might lay flowers into a coffin, gently, without sadness, more out of respect than sentimentality. Next to it, I placed the handwritten note. It wasn't long, but it didn't need to be. There was no bitterness in the words, no sarcasm, just clarity, clean and sharp, like a blade honed slowly over time. You always said I was too emotional. Turns out I was just exhausted. That was all, nothing more, no signature, no return address. I closed the lid, wrapped it in heavy black paper, tied it with a gray ribbon, and addressed it in tidy handwriting. My father's name. His full name. The one he used on tax forms and when arguing with contractors. Not Dad, not Thomas. Just the name that fit the man who had, for so long, treated me like I was something to be managed rather than someone to be loved. The package went out with the morning mail. I watched the postal worker lift it gently into the back of her truck and drive away, unaware of the storm that would begin the moment it landed on his porch. I didn't need to see his reaction to know how it would unfold. I knew he would open it with confusion, expecting something clever, something warm, some last-minute olive branch now that the silence had stretched into weeks. I knew his eyebrows would draw together as he lifted the broken machine from the box, as he read the note and felt the sharpness of the message, and I knew he would not understand, not truly, why this moment was both an ending and an answer. That night, I ignored the 10 missed calls from my mother's number, still unblocked but never acknowledged. I saw the voicemails roll in one after the other, the urgency in her voice rising with each attempt. She didn't say much in the first one, just my name in that fragile tone she reserved for when she knew he was pacing the living room and she was caught in the middle again. The second message had more edge to it. "What are you trying to prove?" she asked, as if my decision to disengage was performance rather than preservation. The third voicemail broke something in me, not because it hurt, but because it felt so familiar. "I just wish you'd stop this," she said. "He's upset. Derek is upset. It's all gotten out of hand. You've made your point, haven't you?" But that was just it. I hadn't made a point. I hadn't set out to prove anything. I had simply stopped participating. That was all. I had stopped explaining, stopped justifying, stopped absorbing the emotional fallout of other people's dysfunction. And the vacuum I left behind was speaking louder than I ever could. I had moved by then. Not far, but far enough. A new place in a quieter neighborhood, nothing fancy, just clean and quiet and mine. Carla helped me haul boxes on a Saturday, both of us sweating and laughing in the midday heat, and when she dropped me off that first night, she said something I haven't forgotten. "You know, Rachel," she said, handing me the last set of keys, "sometimes peace doesn't come with closure. Sometimes it just comes when you stop answering the door." The first week in the new apartment felt like a detox I hadn't realized I needed. I stopped checking the dummy phone. I stopped looking at their social media accounts. I deleted the folder of screenshots and recordings I had once held onto like a shield. Not because I forgave them, not because I forgot, but because carrying their weight had become a full-time job, and I was finally ready to resign. On the following Sunday, Father's Day, I sat in a small corner booth at an old diner near the edge of town, the kind with cracked vinyl seats, chipped mugs, and a waitress who knew how to pour coffee without asking. I had brought my new laptop with me, not Derek's, not the one I had been saving for, but a different one. Less expensive, a little bulkier, but mine. I had bought it with cash. No more saving. No more waiting for the right time, or the right gift, or the right permission. I pulled it out, opened the browser, and hovered over the purchase history of the original laptop. The one I had once dreamed of owning. The one my father had handed over to Derek, like it was some natural extension of his affection. I stared at the screen, the price tag, the specs I had memorized by heart. My finger hovered over the Buy Now button. I could have done it, right there, clicked and closed the chapter with the sound of a transaction completed. But I didn't. Instead, I closed the lid, not out of spite, not out of fear, but because the need was gone. The longing had been replaced by something better, an absence that didn't ache anymore, a quiet that didn't demand to be filled. I paid for my coffee, left a good tip, and walked outside into the heat of a summer that felt different than the ones before, lighter, less crowded with things unsaid. I didn't look back as I walked toward my car. I didn't need to. There are no grand finales in real life, no sweeping orchestra to tell you the pain has ended or that you've arrived at the conclusion. There is only choice, quiet, deliberate choice. And sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is choose to leave the page blank. Let them fill in the rest. Let them sit with the silence they helped create. And if they never understand, that's not my problem anymore.